We talk a lot about hazards in this profession. We talk about things we can see: the unguarded saw blade, the slippery floor, the guy standing on the top rung of the ladder while holding a chainsaw. But what about the hazards we can't really see? Or at least the ones we ignore because they're just part of the environment. I want you to picture a construction site. It's dusty, there's diesel exhaust in the air, the sky is a little gray. You might cough a bit, but you think, hey, that's just the job. But what if I told you that the gray sky isn't just hurting your lungs in 20 years? What if I told you that the particulate matter in the air right now is actively making you dumber, slowing your reaction time, and making it statistically more likely that you will drop a crane load on someone's head today? A new study suggests that air pollution isn't just an environmental issue, it's a safety liability issue. And the numbers they found? They are terrifying. It's an all new Prove It To Me. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Prove It To Me. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Law. I hope you are breathing easy today, literally. I was flipping through professional safety again, because apparently this is my primary source of entertainment these days, and I saw another headline in the Safety Matters section that made me pause. It read, "Exposure to air pollution could increase workplace incidents." Now, my initial reaction was, well, yeah, obviously. If you can't see because of smog, you might crash the forklift. That makes sense. But then I read the numbers in the blurb. It said researchers found a 2.6-fold increase in the frequency of safety liability incidents associated with a doubled concentration of fine particulate pollution. 2.6 fold. That is a 260% increase. In the world of social science and safety research, we usually get excited about a 10% increase. We throw a party for a 20% correlation. But 260%? That is massive. That is stop the presses massive. So naturally, my skeptic alarm went off. I thought, okay, there is no way. There has to be a confounding variable here. Maybe the pollution is higher because the factory is busier, and busier factories have more accidents. Maybe it's just correlation, not causation. So I went to the source. I downloaded the full paper from the journal Energy Economics. The title is Devil Particles, Air Pollution and Safety Liability Accidents. Devil Particles. You have to love a dramatic academic title. And folks, after reading through the instrumental variable regression models, which we are going to nerd out on, I promise, I have to say, the devil might actually be in the details. Let's check the vitals. The study, Devil Particles, Air Pollution, and Safety Liability Accidents, the journal, Energy Economics, published in 2025. The authors, a team from Shandong University in China, the University of Cambridge in the UK, and Yonsei University in South Korea. The data source, they looked at 5,873 safety liability accidents in China between 2000 and 2020. Now, safety liability accidents. What does that mean? In this context, they are using data from the China Stock Market and Accounting Research, CSMAR, database. These are significant accidents involving listed companies. We aren't talking about a paper cut. We are talking about explosions, collapses, poisonings, events big enough to be reported to shareholders and regulators. The authors propose three mechanisms for why bad air equals bad safety. Number one, visibility. This is the obvious one. If PM 2.5, that's fine particulate matter, is high, the air is hazy. You can't see the crane signalman. You can't see the edge of the platform. Number two, physical and cognitive impairment. This is where it gets interesting. We know PM 2.5 enters the bloodstream. It causes inflammation, but it also affects the brain. The authors cite research showing that pollution leads to anxiety, depression, and, crucially, reduced cognitive performance. If you are breathing smog, your brain is processing slower. Your reaction time is worse. You are essentially working under the influence of pollution. Number three, equipment failure. Pollution is corrosive. Acid, rain, dust, particulates, they eat away at machinery. Sensors fail, cables degrade. So they have a solid theoretical framework, but can they prove it with numbers? Here is the problem with studying pollution and accidents. They are both caused by the same thing: economic activity. Think about it. When is a factory most polluted? When it is running at 100% capacity. When is a factory most likely to have an accident? When it is running at 100% capacity. So, if you just run a simple regression, you will find a link, but you won't know if the pollution caused the accident or if the work intensity caused both the pollution and the accident. This is called endogeneity. It's the arch nemesis of econometrics. So, how did these researchers solve it? They used a tool called an instrumental variable. Class is in session. An instrumental variable is a variable that affects the cause, pollution, but does not affect the effect, accidents, directly, except through the cause. The instrument they chose: thermal inversions. A thermal inversion is a weather phenomenon. Usually, air gets colder as you go up, but sometimes a layer of warm air sits on top of a layer of cold air, trapping it near the ground. When this happens, pollution gets trapped. It can't escape. The PM 2.5 levels skyrocket. But, and this is key, a thermal inversion does not inherently make a factory run faster. It doesn't change the safety policy. It doesn't change the shift schedule. It is just a weather event. So, if accidents go up specifically when thermal inversions happen, we can be much more confident that the pollution is the cause, not the production schedule. So, they ran the two-stage least squares regression using this thermal inversion instrument, and the results held up. Finding number one, the frequency. A doubling of PM 2.5 concentration led to a 2.6-fold increase in the probability of a safety liability accident. That is a massive effect size. It suggests that air quality is not just a minor factor, it might be a dominant factor on bad days. Finding number two, the severity. They didn't just count accidents, they counted bodies. A doubling of PM 2.5 led to a 37% increase in fatalities and a 51% increase in total casualties, which is injuries plus deaths. Why? Maybe because when visibility is low and reaction times are slow, the accidents that happen are catastrophic. It's not just bumping your shin, it's driving a truck off a cliff. Finding number three, the mechanism check. They wanted to verify the cognitive mental pathway. They looked at mood data using search engine trends for anxiety and depression words. They found that pollution significantly increased negative mood and anxiety search terms in the area. This supports the idea that workers are stressed, anxious, and cognitively impaired on smoggy days, making them more error prone. They broke the data down by industry. Guess who gets hit the hardest? Mining and construction. The coefficient for mining was huge. This makes sense. Mines are already hazardous environments. They rely heavily on visual cues, and miners are physically exerting themselves, meaning they are inhaling more of that polluted air deep into their lungs. Interestingly, they also found a strong effect in energy intensive industries like steel, chemical, power generation. These industries produce their own pollution, so it's a vicious cycle. The factory runs hard, it makes smoke, smoke traps locally, workers get cognitively impaired, and workers blow up the factory. Now, let's poke some holes. You know I have to do it. Critique number one, the China context. The study uses data from China between 2000 and 2020. If you know anything about China's environmental history, you know that the pollution levels there, especially in the early 2000s, were off the charts. We're talking about airpocalypse days, where you couldn't see the building across the street. PM 2.5 levels of 100, 200, even 500 micrograms per cubic meter. In the US, the EPA standard is 12. So, is this applicable to a factory in Ohio? Maybe not the magnitude. A doubling of PM 2.5 in Ohio might mean going from 10 to 20. That might not cause a 2.6-fold increase in accidents, but the mechanism, the cognitive impairment, the slight visibility loss, is likely still there, just more subtle. Critique number two, the liability definition. They only looked at safety liability accidents reported by public companies. These are the big ones. This dataset misses the millions of minor cuts, slips, and falls that happen every day. It is possible that pollution causes catastrophes because of the visibility and equipment failure aspect, but doesn't necessarily cause more minor injuries. Or maybe it causes more, but they aren't reported. We don't know. Now, critique number three, the equipment pathway. The authors mention equipment corrosion as a pathway. I buy the visibility one, but equipment corrosion? That happens over years. The study links daily pollution spikes via the thermal inversions to accidents. I doubt that a high pollution Tuesday causes a steel beam to rust through and collapse on Wednesday. That feels like a stretch to me. I think the human factor, the brain fog and the blindness, is the real culprit here. So, why does this matter to you? If you are a safety manager, you probably check the weather for rain. You check for lightning. You check for heat stress. Do you check the air quality index? If this data is right, a code orange or code red air quality day is a high risk safety day. Your workers are statistically dumber, slower, and blinder on these days. So, what can you do? Monitor AQI. Put it on your morning safety brief. Hey guys, air is bad today. Heads on a swivel. Take extra breaks. Number two, filter the air. If you have indoor facilities, are your HVAC filters up to spec? Can you keep the particulate matter out of the control room? Number three, reschedule high risk work. If you have a critical crane lift planned, and there is a thermal inversion trapping smog over the site, maybe wait a day. The risk of a liability incident, aka a disaster, is statistically higher. The authors conclude by saying that environmental policy is safety policy. I agree. We often treat EHS as environment, health, and safety, three silos. The environmental guy worries about the scrubber permit, the safety guy worries about fall protection. But this study shows they are the same thing. If the scrubber fails, the air gets toxic, the worker gets foggy, and the fall protection gets tested. It's all one system. That's it for this Study Finds episode. I'm going to go check the AQI in my office, although, given that I work from home and have two dogs, the particulate matter is mostly fur. I wonder if there's a study on the cognitive impact of shedding. As always, if you have research that you want to share on the podcast, whether it's your own or just a really cool study you found, or some research you've been able to effectively put into practice, send me an email at contact@proveitpod.com. Until next time, I'm Dr. Matt Law. Thanks for listening to the Prove It To Me podcast. Take care and stay safe, everyone. Prove It To Me is produced by me, Matt Law. Original music by Wes London. You can find this podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Like what you've heard so far? Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Got questions about what we talked about or research that you want to share? Send an email to contact@proveitpod.com. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and its guests and do not necessarily represent the official position, opinion, or strategies of their employers or companies. Examples of research and data analysis discussed within this podcast are only examples. They should not be utilized in the real world as the only solution available, as they are based on very limited, often single use case, and sometimes dated information. Assumptions made within this discussion about research and data analyses are not necessarily representative of the position of the host, the guests, or their employers or companies. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, mechanical, electronic, recording, or otherwise, without prior written permission of the creator of the podcast. The presentation of the content by the guests does not necessarily constitute an active endorsement of the content by the host.